Khabib, as you all know, puts his lightweight title and undefeated record on the line Saturday against Conor McGregor at UFC 229. What is Team Khabib's, that's his Twitter handle, what is Khabib's most impressive victory to date? There's 4 choices here, and I think they're the accurate ones. RDA at UFC on Fox 11. Michael Johnson at UFC 205. That's in New York. Edson Barboza at UFC 219. Also New York. Or Al Iaquinta, also New York, but not the city. It was in Brooklyn, UFC 223. So those are your 4 choices for the most impressive victory for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Dan, Tom, lead off.
I gotta say, for me, it's Edson Barboza. I like the Rafael dos Anjos win. I think that I haven't seen the poll results. I gotta imagine that one's gonna do really well. But that fight's almost 5 years old. You know, 4.5 years old, somewhere around that neighborhood. And you would argue is a different version of both men. Whereas Barboza,
he made RDA better.
Yeah. And Barboza, yeah, he may have lost this fight after that to Kevin Lee, but it was another tough stylistic matchup. And Barboza showed in both those fights, hitting spin kicks late into the fight, that he's not no easy pushover just because he doesn't have a UFC belt under his resume. But I'll go with Edson Barboza.
All right, how about you guys?
Early on, I had leaned actually towards Al Iaquinta just because of everything that went on before that, and just being able to get through it and still be him.
Right.
But I think I'm going to end up at RDA just because it was a pretty good and complete solid fighter that he just dismantled.
Well, you almost changed my mind. I also liked Barboza, but Iaquinta, I use this term a lot because we're in a gambling town. We're in Las Vegas. House money. Let me define what that means first. When you hear people say it, including me and others, it's basically when you're winning and you're up, and it's like you can have more fun because the house paid you. They paid you some money, so hey, things you normally wouldn't do, you do. I feel like Iaquinta's kind of been playing with house money because he's not like full-time into the sport. He's got the real estate thing going on, and yeah, he bickered with the UFC, but he got the money that he wanted. Then he goes out there and ices Sanchez a few years ago, comes back, and I feel like he's got nothing to lose, so he was so relaxed going in. And you're right, Khabib went in there thinking, first Tony, then Max. Then I guess they gave him a bunch of names. Felder was thrown in there. Chiesa says he has a case for why it should have been him or could have been him had he not been cut. And then to come out there and still perform well against Iaquinta while having a bunch of other things on his mind, including Conor McGregor, and that was pretty damn impressive. With Barboza, I thought Barboza's probably the highest ranked name, I guess, because RDA is a 70 now. But Barboza had success towards the end. He won many battles while losing the war. So I was going to say Barboza. I think I'm going to go with Iaquinta because he just went through so much, and he did capture the title. And what sucked is he didn't get to beat the prior champion, which was Conor, because it was basically a vacant title. Even the interim was out of the picture at that point. So I'm going to side with that. But goes, you and I are in the big-time minority.
I know, I didn't understand this.
The results came. They agreed with Dan Tom. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Dan Tom had RDA. He came in second. Barboza at 57% for UFC 219. Dan Tom, RDA. Who'd you have?
Barboza.
Yeah, Barboza. Okay. You threw me off, Goose.
No, because he had said he imagined it would be RDA.
It's a complicated question. It was a little bit of a complicated question.
I like that. Last couple days have been
really
fun. Made us think.
Yeah.
We did have to think a little bit here. So RDA came in at second place at 28%.
Okay.
UFC on Fox 11. Kudos to the fans for remembering that one. Michael Johnson at 12%. Michael Johnson hurt him. He hurt him, man. He's speed. Keep that in mind this weekend. He came in at 12%, UFC 205. Iaquinta at 3%, UFC 223. 1,184 votes registered. Thank you all for participating, Junkie Nation, our readers and listeners of the show. With that, let's take one more break, and then we'll touch on some of the latest news.